Deputy Superintendent, Board Directors, staff, community. My name is David Montes de Oca, and I work with the Quality Community School Development Group within the Oakland Unified School District. We had a presentation at the Teaching and Learning Committee that was perhaps a little bit more extensive than we'll initially share tonight, though we'll certainly be available to answer as many questions as possible. I'll provide a brief overview of this staff report and recommendation. I'm going to invite the principal subsequently to share some additional information about the school's program and some of its key successes and its vision for its expansion. And then provide a little bit of background through one of our regional officers to respond to some of the questions that were raised at the Teaching and Learning Committee. I'll close out with a reminder of what exactly this recommendation is, and then we'll open it up. Okay. So with that, I'd just like to move through and note that this is a recommendation specifically for the approval of a grade configuration change of LifeAcademy to serve students in grades 6 through 12 beginning July 1, 2012. There's a few places where there may be some information I'll modify as a result of more correction to some data. So with that in mind, it's approximately 65 students in 6th grade that the school would begin enrolling in the academic year fall 2012-13. The school would grow that population of 6th grade students up a grade each year by taking in a subsequent 6th grade class until they have, over the next 3 years, a full 612 complement. The school would operate at the Calvin Simmons campus where it's currently located. It's currently located there, co-located with United for Success Academy, which is a 6-8 school. And facility modifications that are necessary to adjust space to allow for this program, those modifications can be accommodated within the current funding allocation that LifeAcademy has with respect to its modernization. And there's a proposal embedded in this to consider the open enrollment of this school to be a specific specialized program available equally to all students coming out of 5th grade that may be interested in this type of science, health, and medicine focused program throughout the city. So with that in mind, just a little bit of background with respect to grade configuration change recommendations. Last year, the Office of Quality Community School Development was established as part of the initial development of the strategic direction of the district. And at the inception of that, that office, which I oversee, was introduced to a number of school communities that had, over some period of time, begun deep consideration of grade configuration change that could allow for quality school programs that are serving students well to expand to serve students for a longer period of time. LifeAcademy was one of those schools that was introduced at that time. In that fall, we did not have as a district a specific process necessarily or a method by which we might evaluate or propose those decisions. So our initial engagement at that time was to allow the community to further explore the rationale for this expansion. So we hosted some dinners to invite existing 612 and K-8 school principals, staff to engage with the leaders and various representatives from schools that were pursuing these grade configuration changes. We did school site visits and read into some additional research. And over that period of time, we began to engage with schools that had grown their programs. In Oakland, while we have 3 K-8 schools that the district operates and 1 612 school that the district operates, there are also 9 K-8 charter schools in Oakland, and there are 5 612 charter schools in Oakland. So there are a total of 18 612 or K-8 schools operating in Oakland. So there's quite a bit to learn from, to advantage, and we, through that process, developed some readiness factors to consider and present to you tonight in terms of factors that would be important for these kinds of change recommendations. In the spring, as the strategic planning process was getting more clear about the proposed strategic plan, in lieu of making decisions last year for grade configuration changes, we believe that any decisions around these configuration changes should be based on the strategic plan itself. And so in preparation for that, and really in an attempt to make sure that we hadn't missed school communities that were also already underway in considering grade configuration changes, a letter of interest was put out to invite school communities that were already in the process of considering this to essentially notify the central office so that we could engage them. We did receive a number of letters of interest. Some of those were from school communities that had some preparation. A number were from school communities where the invitation itself was the initiation. So in those settings, largely that was an underdeveloped proposal, so they were encouraged to consider a future cycle if the board and the superintendent and the strategic plan suggested a cycle of review of grade configuration changes, which under the strategic plan would make sense. So in that respect, this fall, as part of the restructuring recommendations of the superintendent, there are recommendations for a number of things, and I just want to note that the last page of the strategic plan notes the concept of school portfolio management. And what it says there is it says that there will be an ongoing process to ensure that we have the right mix and number of high-quality schools and programs to serve all learners. And it goes on to say that there will be recommendations that are brought forward that would include expanding programs. And these grade configuration changes are, in essence, an example of expanding quality school programs. So in light of that, these recommendations are being brought forward in part as a response to the strategic plan goals and initiatives. So some of the research, most of the research is primarily focused on K-8 schools because there's a much longer history of K-8 schools. As you may know, there are private schools in Oakland that are also K-8, 6-12, K-12. So this grade configuration change exists in many ways and has existed for a long period of time. Research indicates, specific as we think about the middle grades, is that expanded grades can offer similar and oftentimes equal opportunities for students to excel. So students graduating from 6-12s may not necessarily be more prepared for college than students that graduate from a high-quality 9-12, and equally students that come out of a 6-8 middle school could be equally prepared as students coming out of a K-8. What expanded grade configurations can allow for, however, is it provides an opportunity to support students through challenging transitions. There are significant drops in student achievement that occur from 5th to 6th grade and from 8th to 9th grade, and that's true in Oakland, and that's true throughout public education, well, throughout schools in general. And so for many students, they don't recover well from those transitions. And so these are opportunities to provide school program options that can support students through those transitions. Additionally, for students who need additional support, these extended programs allow students to receive that additional support over a longer period of time. And there is research that students in continuous relationships with adults can receive targeted supports and interventions that can provide increased achievement. In either case, what it definitely suggests, and certainly as a part of this strategy, is that there's absolutely an expectation that we have a deep need for comprehensive and quality middle schools, comprehensive and quality high schools. But this is also an opportunity to advantage other types of school programming that can support students to achieve their goals, to succeed, and also to provide comparable options to other public school options in Oakland that aren't necessarily operated by the district. So with that, just an acknowledgement, there is a design process. Most of this fall was engaged in preparation of the information of really the feasibility. We wanted to make sure that there really was a feasible proposal to put forward before moving forward with the actual program designs. And the program designs are going to be predicated on some of these grade configuration change decisions. There'll be design teams that are comprised, as we've done historically in school development work, of community representatives, parents and teachers, students, particularly in this case with secondary, and site-based leadership with support from the district to convene, to visit schools, to engage in a design process, to have very clear benchmarks about components of the plan that they need to have prepared and in preparation for us to move into implementation. And that will happen in the second part of the process this year, subsequent to decision-making about these grade configuration changes. And so this tells just a little bit more about that Part A, which is what we're working on now, and in this case, making a recommendation around this particular school. And then Part B is really the expanding program development. And we would expect to bring back to this board in mid to late spring the more complete and comprehensive actual program plans to better assess the preparation for the schools to open next fall. Just to name the readiness factors, these are really kind of subsequent. They're one leads to the next. So the first is there really a high quality program achieving results for students that are making gains and having a positive impact? And is it therefore a program worth expanding? If it is, then the question is there staff and family interest? Expanding a school program is not something you impose, especially not at these times when we don't have significant resources to bring in tremendous amounts of support for that process. It's really going to require a good deal of effort at the school site to develop, and there needs to be great interest and certainly interest from families to enroll. If there is interest in a quality program, Then is there the capacity? Is the school engaged in a myriad of other initiatives that may draw their attention away, or do they have the ability to really hone and focus their attention now on developing the expanded school program plan and implementing it? And then subsequently, if there is, do we actually have the capacity at the facility that they're located in? And that analysis is something that we have to consider subsequently. What may be the impact of the expanded grades on other schools surrounding it, and how have we contemplated that in the recommendations? So again, some just additional information that reinforces some things I've just shared. Impact on school facilities, we just essentially assess it through, is the current facility sufficient for the current program? Is it sufficient for the new program? Are there basic modifications needed for the basic program? And then as the strategic plan and the facilities master plan are developing a real vision for our facilities, we want to make sure that we've considered if a school were to have all the bells and whistles that we would hope that it would have, so that all children have access to a really high quality program vis-a-vis a facility that can accommodate it, what kind of additional amenities may need to be present. And this particular campus actually allows for that pretty extensively in terms of the amenities that it can provide.